اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت ونفعنا به وبكم. قال, he says, under the chapter of the people of Gnosis, the Awarif, the Arifin. We have covered a few paragraphs on that topic, and we continue until the truthful, and we will look at what the truthful are defined as, inshaAllah. قال رحمه الله وقدس الله روحه وسره. He says, فاطلب آثار من زاده العلم خشية والعمل بصيرة. This is a quest where we seek the company of the pious, and Imam Harith al-Muhasibi is giving us some beautiful guidelines as to how to go about it, how to find people that will inspire you and motivate you in this deen. He says, فَاطْلُبْ آثَارَ مَنْ زَادَهُ. He says, seek the athar, the footsteps or the legacy of those whose knowledge that they have acquired increase them in God-fearingness, and their actions increase them in basira, in foresight. What he's trying to say is that not every single person who has ilm has increased in God-fearingness. There are many people out there who have knowledge, but the knowledge have not benefited them. Right? So not every person that says قال الله وقال رسول الله is one that you have to attach yourself immediately to, but rather look at that person very carefully, look at his lifestyle, look at his adherence and practice of the deen, and his abstinence from the muharramat, from the prohibitions. And then once you have found that, then you have found one of the main alamat, one of the main signs of the people of Allah. Then secondly, he says, once you see that person doing the amal, practicing the deen, in other words, see if that person has increased in basira. Basira is inner vision. It's foresight. Meaning that person does not look at short-term gain, but is looking at long-term gain. And the long-term gain we are talking about here is the pleasure of Allah in the akhirah, and the thawab in the akhirah. The person that thinks وَإِنَّ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ, that lives with that particular principle, that the akhirah, that is life. Whatever happens to them in the dunya is not that important, is not personal. Some people, things happen to them. People do things to them, insult them, deceive them, lie to them, being dishonest to them. They keep that to heart and they never let go of that. They carry that with them their entire life. That person is somehow attached to the dunya and not to the akhirah. But a person who's forgiving and let go and says, inshaAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resolve this matter. Whether here in the dunya or in the akhirah, it's in the hands of Allah. As far as myself is concerned, I'm not going to carry all of this burden with me the rest of my life. وَالْعَقْلُ he says, وَالْعَقْلُ مَعْرِفَةً فَإِنْ حَجَبَكَ عَنْ مِنْهَاجِهِمْ فَفَقْدُ الْأَدَبِ فارجع بالذم على نفسك ولن يخفى على أهل العلم صفة المخلصين. He says والعقل معرفة فإن حجبك عن منهاجهم فقد الأدب فارجع بالذنب على نفسك. He says, so if you are following them, you're following their way, the way of Ahlullah, the way of the Arifin, you found them and now you're following their way, and sometimes once you follow their way, the people of Ahlullah, the Ahlul Ma'rifah, they give you instructions, don't they? Do this, don't do that. And sometimes the thing that is the greatest obstacle in us putting their advice to practice is our own intellect. Well, I think it should be like this. I think they're a little bit too harsh. I think they're a little bit too over the top. All right? They tell you, give you certain instructions, then don't let your aql come in and instruct you on top of their instructions. Okay, don't let it be a hijab. Don't let your aql be a barrier. And this is what many men and women today struggle with. They want to sit in the company of the Salihin, but when it comes to implementing their instructions and following their advice, says, well, I think, they're a little bit over the top here. Can't be doing that. They're a little bit too strict. Well, that is your aql stepping in, and that is a hijab. That is a hijab, because that hijab is preventing you from something that will give you further tawfiq in following the path of the people of Ahlullah, and that is adab. And adab comes by listening and following. Listening and following. My shaykh used to say, there used to be this individual who came to Turkey, used to take the tariqah from a very strict Naqshbandi Turkish shaykh. And he comes and he sits in the company of the shaykh, and he says, well, from Germany. He's a German, English fella, European. And many of the Europeans came to take the tariqah of the Naqshbandiyah. Well, I have read this book and I've read that book and I've read the Mathnawi. The Mathnawi is the book of Jalaluddin al-Rumi. Have you come across the Mathnawi? I've read the Mathnawi cover to cover so many times. Shaykh said, MashaAllah. And then the Shaykh is listening to this guy, but the Shaykh can sense he's a very intellectual guy, and he puts his intellect forward first before he listens and follows. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. The Shaykh said, what is the first word of the Mathnawi? And he starts scratching his head. Shaykh said, give me the first word of the Mathnawi. And the Shaykh is busy packing his bag because he was on his way to the airport. Packed his bag and zipped it up, coming down the stairs. The taxi is already outside. And the German guy goes running down the stairs. Sheikh, it's lesson, it's lesson, it's lesson. The point is, the first word that Al-Mathnawi, that Imam Jalaluddin Al-Rumi wrote in his Mathnawi, is Isma', listen. Open your ears and listen. And once you have an intellect and a big ego, it's very difficult to listen to the advice and the nasiha of others. Now, many people, they've left their job because they can't follow instructions and they can't be told. Many people have left the gym and said, well, I can't deal with this instructor, this fitness instructor, because I don't like to be told. Eat this and eat this, don't eat that, you can't touch that, do this regime, do that. Can't take it. They gave up. Who's at loss? Not the instructor, the instructed. If you want to move forward in life, in any field, dear brothers and sisters, you have to listen and you have to follow instructions and put the little ego aside, box it up, tie a nice big rock to it, go to the ocean and say bye-bye. And then you will grow. And then you will grow. So he says, Al-aqlu ma'rifatan. The aql is ma'rifa, is knowledge. Lakin hajabaka an minhajihim. It can be a barrier or a veil between you and their minhaj. Minhaj means a program. It means a program. And that is what the ulama and the ahlullah, the people of Allah, the arifin, they have a program in place for you. So follow it. So that hijab, the aql, can sometimes, strip you from your adab towards them. He says, what do you do? فَرْجِعْ بِالذَّمِّ عَلَى نَفْسِكَ. Return back to humbling yourself by censuring and blaming yourself. Yourself is your nafs, that ego. وَلَنْ يَخْفَى عَلَى أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ صِفَةُ الْمُخْلِصِينَ. And the characteristics of the sincere is never hidden from the people of knowledge. If you come in with a sincere heart, the people of knowledge, and when we say knowledge, meaning the knowledge of Allah, not the people that know fiqh, halal and haram, no. People that know hadith in Quran, no. Talking about ahlullah, the people of ma'rifah. Your sincerity will never be hidden from them. What did the ulama used to do in the olden days? You all know Abu Madian. Have you heard of Abu Madian? The great Sufi. Sufi sages of the, some particular century. It's a book written. Abu Madian was Ghawth Abu Madian, they call him. Have you heard of him? Ghawth Abu Madian, a Sufi from originally from Andalus, from Muslim Spain, and then resided in Morocco and became one of the greatest Sufis of his time. When he came and left Andalus and he came to Morocco, he looked for Yalan Nur ibn Maymun ad-Dakkali. This was a huge saint. He stepped away from modern society and lived in a mountain cave. Those were the days, if you wanted to take a tariqah, it was not that easy. The shaykh would test you. So, Ghawth Abu Madian, he was a young man, wanted to change his life. And to be honest, he had no deen in his life prior to him coming to Morocco looking for the ilm of Allah. So he was directed, Yala Nur is in the mountain, go and be in his company, and he went. So when he came into the company of Yala Nur ibn Maymun al-Dakkali, rahmatullahi alayhi wa qaddasallahu ruha wa sirrah, he was not allowed to come into the gathering in the cave. Days went by and he sat outside the cave like a watchdog, was not allowed to come in. And the murids would have the meals and the couscous, and he was thinking to himself, well, it's a long way down. These guys could be at least, so kind to give me a bit of their food. I'm not going to go all the way down just for a bite. So he stayed. But he was not given one single crumb to eat. And he became so hungry. But he stayed. He stayed. He was more hungry for spiritual nourishment than for physical nourishment. And he stayed. And he could feel that the hunger is really getting to him now. And he's begging to come in, but they said, no, you can't come in. And then the Shaykh, where the Shaykh was sitting and eating, he went up there, he was crying his eyes out because he's really, really now desperate, if he's going to faint. He took the dust of the place where the Shaykh was sitting and put it on his face to show his humility and his neediness. And then he went blind. He couldn't see. And in the state of hunger, and he can't see a thing, is completely now lost. And it's at that point when the Shaykh came to him, and the Shaykh put his hands on his eyes and said, now you're ready to come in. Now if that sort of testing would have been applied to one of us today, let us just forget this. These people, they don't know how to treat somebody that wants to seek Allah. And I'm here to seek Allah, and they don't even respect that. I'll pack my bags and go. This is how the people treat people or students of knowledge. Forget about this. I'm going to preach from now onwards against tasawwuf. I'm going to make that my sole priority. But this is how they used to test you. Those days. And then you could come into the tariqah. Today, through the Shaykh's intuition, he allows anybody. And ikhlas is a very important factor before somebody takes the path. Another example is Abu al-Abbas al-Mursi, the teacher of Ibn Ata'illah al-Sakandari. Some of the great students and murids would come and sit in the company of the Shaykh, and they might have been in the tariqah for several years. And they would sit there, and the Shaykh would not give them any ikram. He would not honor them, serve them tea, bit of biscuits, whatever the case may be, something sweet. But then, when those sinners, those ones who have really, did zulm to themselves, they were unjust to themselves, they did everything wrong, they would come into the company of the Shaykh, but they would come in with such humility, such indigency, and neediness, and brokenness, and faqr. And they would sit there, and the Shaykh would feel that ikhlas, and that sincerity, and that motivation to make change, that the Shaykh would give them greater ikram than he would give the ikram to those who have been in the tariqah a long time. And the students who have been, or the murids who have been in the tariqah for a long time, they would not understand that. But what the Shaykh was saying is, I don't want people who are up here and are doing the work that's around here. He says, I want murids that are down here, but they're aiming up there. Their aim is up there. Those are the people that I can work with. So, what that particular chapter is telling us, the chapter of ma'rifah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not looking out for the hafiz, for the one who memorized many hadith, the student of knowledge, but rather it could be anybody as long as he has the desire. He has to have the desire to be with Allah. Strong desire. That is what makes a murid. And that is why it's called a murid. Because what does the word murid mean? It's taken from the root word arada. He wants, he desires something. So we call him a murid. Okay? So, if you come into a tariqah and with the intention of, well, I'm just going to check this out before I really make up my mind. It's like you are going to purchase a car. I'm going to first check it out, have a test drive, and see if I like it. If not, I'll dump it, I'll go for another one. If you have irada, and you've made your istikhara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you, and you have to put your trust in Allah. You have to put your trust in Allah, that Allah will guide you to somebody that will take you to Him. That brings us to the topic of truthfulness. The truthful. Who are they? Page 18. Who are the truthful? وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ فِي كُلِّ فِكْرَةٍ أَدَبٍ وَفِي كُلِّ إِشَارَةٍ عِلْمًا وإنما يميز ذلك من فهم عن الله عز وجل مراده وجنى فوائد اليقين من خطابه. In every single thought, there is a certain etiquette that we need to follow. في كل فكرة أدب. It says, know that in every thought there is an accompanying etiquette. And in every sign there is something to learn. Ishara. So the thought here, Wallahu ta'ala alam, is the thought given to you by the shaykh, the instructor, the murabbi, the one who's training you, who's putting you on a path and guiding you. There's an adab with it. And in every ishara, it's translated as sign here in the book, but Wallahu ta'ala isharat is the indications and the guidelines, not the thoughts that the shaykh puts in your mind, but the isharat, the indications, the guidelines of the shaykh. He says, fi kulli isharatin ilm. In every single ishara there is a knowledge that you need to take from. Okay? وَإِنَّمَا يُمَيِّزُ ذَلِكَ. And the one who will understand and learn from that is who? Man fahima, is the one who understand an azza wa jal muradahu wa jana fawaid al-yaqini min khitabihi. And the one who will understand this knowledge and will understand these isharat, these guidances, is the one who understands what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from him. So if the shaykh gives you an ishara, do this, or gives you an understanding of the inner fiqh of tasawwuf, the inner fiqh, the experiential knowledge, they call it, the experiential knowledge. Me and you, we don't have the experience of years of practice and sitting in hours and hours and hours and hours of dhikrullah and fearing Allah and working on ourselves by day and by night, working on our thoughts, working on our fikr, working on our dhikr, working on our tongue and what it mentions and what it speaks on a daily basis, taking hisab of ourselves, taking stock of ourselves by morning and by evening. We are new to this. We don't have the experience or the fruits that grew from that. We don't have that. We are looking for those fruits. But the ulama of Allah, the Ahlul Ilm, the Ahlullah, the ulama of Tasawwuf, they have done this. They have done this. And they've tasted the fruits. And they know exactly what they are talking about. So, he says, the one who understands these isharat from these people and the fikr from these people, the thinking of these people, فَهِمَ عَنِ اللَّهِ مُرَادَهُ. He will understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants with him eventually. And the person that does not really understand it, he does not understand what Allah wants from him. So Allah wants for every single person to say, come my slave, come to me, know me, adhere to my divine commands, and stay away from my divine prohibitions. You as a murid who understands the isharat in your shaykh, in your instructor, in your murabbi, you are the one that knows what Allah wants from you, or what Allah wants you to become. And then you will reap the fawaid, the benefits of that yaqeen, because that results into yaqeen, into certainty. You've got different types of murids. Some murids are not, they don't have yaqeen, they don't have certainty. And I'm not talking as a shaykh, I'm talking as a murid. I'm a murid, okay? I'm talking of my own experience. I've got no right to speak about the experiences that I have seen or I have experienced with other murids. I'm talking about myself. So then you will reap the fawaid of yaqeen min khitabihi, from the speech of the shaykh. وعلامة ذلك في الصادق, and the alama and the signs of this you will find within the truthful one. You will find these signs of a person who sees what Allah wants from him eventually. Alright, it's same with shaitan. Shaitan sometimes can be your shaykh, and then he sends somebody that's going to mislead you. A company. But if you follow it through, you can tell, but this is going to lead me into a lot of big mess. I better get out of here, because you have understood that this is going to lead me closer to the path of shaitan. The opposite of that is when you listen to the shaykh and you stay in his company, in the company of the salihin, you see what Allah wants from you. And if you see that, then you have to carry on. You have to follow through. You have to have perseverance, resolve to complete this path. All right? Yes, you're gonna get knocked down. Yes, you're gonna get ups and downs in your path. No doubt about that. Ibn Ata'illah as-Sakandari says, "Lawla mayadin an-nufus." He's got a beautiful aphorism. He says, the murid, if it wasn't for the battlefields of the nafs, then we would not have progressed. How do you progress? By winning one battle after another. This is how you become successful. The battle against your nafs are many. He says, if it wasn't for the battlefields of the nafs, and things could have just worked with a click of a finger, of a switch of a button, then there wouldn't have been something called tariqah, and there wouldn't have been any improvement. Then you can stay as you are. But the battlefields of the nafs are plenty, and if you've not done these battles, then there would not be any progress. So it's not easy. How to arm up for a battle, to sacrifice and slay your own nafs, your own ego, to put it down, to embarrass it, because the way it behaves, to scoff, to scowl, and to tell it off, it's not easy. You have to break it. You know what they used to do with Ibn Ajiba? Ibn Ajiba was one of the murids of Mulli Arabi Darqawi. But Mulli Arabi Darqawi was not an intellectual man. He was one of the greatest Sufis, but he was not the high caliber graduate from the big universities in Faz. He was not that particular person. He spoke to the layman. He was eloquent though, but he spoke to the layman. But he put one of his students who were really, really, really eloquent and really intellectual. He put one of his murids in charge to train Ibn Ajiba up. And part of his training was to break his nafs, because he had this big ego that he is a faqih and a mufassir. And remember, Ibn Ajiba was writing huge books at that time, before he became a great sheikh. Ibn Ajiba is the one who wrote the commentary on one of the most beautiful commentaries on the hikam, the aphorisms of Ibn Ata'illah as-Sakandari. It's called Iqadul Himam. Iqadul Himam, the awakening of the aspirations. And his training was, the way these nafs was broken, was you need to go beg on the streets of Morocco. Somewhere, I can't remember what town it was. He knew to go beg on the streets. So he went. And then the instructor went to him and said, look, no, not on the streets where you are not known. Go beg on the streets where you are known, where everybody knows you. Go do it there. To break the nafs. To set the nafs straight. And to show the nafs that you are nothing. You know Ali Ajwari? It's a data bar. Huh? Who is Ali Ajwari? Nobody knows? Big darbar in Pakistan. Data bar. Come on, guys. Huh? Anyway, he went once to his sheikh and he felt a little bit dry, spiritually bankrupt. Doesn't know where all of his principle went. It's gone. I had a huge saving, but it's gone now. Where is it? My spiritual backup is gone. He went to his sheikh and he did dhikr there. Tahajjud. Read the Quran. Night after night. Nothing. And after several nights of ibadah and devotion, he said, I'm not for this path. He took off his woolen Sufi garment and he said, I'm not worthy of wearing this. And he threw it one. He gave it to a shepherd. He said, you take it. So he went. He went back from where he came. And on his way there was a motel. He booked himself in. So like a little place where you can stay. And that night there were some hooligans. They were having a party on top of the roof. And it was extremely hot that night. Very hot. And he couldn't bear the heat in the room. So he went out and made him a little bed on the balcony. So he was laying there. But he's like, he's so, upset with himself that nothing is happening. Where is that ecstasy, that sweetness that used to be there? It's gone. Now this happens to many murids. Once you have done a lot of, tarbiyah and you've worked on yourself, sometimes your nafs feels a little bit, I am that guy now. Right? I can wear that Sufi garment, I can wear that tasbih. Don't have to wear it in my pocket now, I can wear it around my neck. Right? I can sit in the company, I can sit, not in the company, I can sit right next to the sheikh because I'm that guy. And I can carry the slippers of the sheikh. And if anyone dares to touch the slippers of the sheikh, I will tell him, you've got no right to touch the sheikh's slippers, it's only my job. That kind of attitude. Sometimes it comes to the murid in his path. And he felt, oh my God, this is it, I'm not made for this. But he was sincere. That night, the hooligans on top of the roof, they had this party and it was watermelon and sweet melon. And they decided, well, I'm going to, they started looking for a target because they needed to get rid of the watermelon peels, the skins. And they saw him laying there on the bed, and they said, let's make him a target. And they started targeting him, and they throw him with the watermelons. So he's laying there and he's thinking about himself, and how he's the worst of the worst. And then he feels this watermelon coming, boop, on his back, on his head, and he becomes a target the whole night through. And as the watermelons hit him one after the other, his maqam started rising. Because he thinks, Ya Allah, it couldn't get any worse than this. Here I'm dried out. I don't know, I've done so many dhikr for nights on end in the maqam of the Shaykh, and now you're teaching me to be even more humble than this? That these people are treating me like a nobody? And as he gets hit by the watermelon peels and the sweet melons, his maqam goes up, up, up. The point is, we have to humiliate our nufus to a point where we don't have nafs anymore. Now how is that possible? You can't do it on your own, sisters and brothers. You can't do it on your own. You need to be in the company or in the instructions of somebody who has done it himself. So we need to go and find them. That is sidq. So when you come in with sidq like that, Abu Hasan al-Shadili was looking for the qutub of his time. So he went all the way to a sheikh in Mosul. Where is Abu Hasan al-Shadili from? He's from Morocco. He traveled all the way to Mosul. Where's Mosul? In Iraq. He got there, knocked on the door. So-and-so Shaykh here. Yes, he is here. He comes and meets the Shaykh and he says, I have been yearning to meet you for so long, and I've traveled all the way from Morocco. And I've been told that you are the qutub, so I'm here. Train me. He says, you come to the wrong person. The qutub is in your country. Go back. Huh? Who is he? Muli Abdus Salam ibn Mashish. He lived on the Atlas Mountains. So he went back to Morocco, and then climbed this mountain, the Atlas Mountain. So when he got to the top, he met Muli Abdus Salam ibn Mashish, his sheikh that made him, who he is known by Abu Hasan al-Shadili, the founder of the Shadili Tariqah. But who was his sheikh? It was this great man. And when he came there, and the sheikh asked him, is your glass full or is it empty? The first question. Is your glass full or is it empty? He's thinking to himself, what's the sheikh talking about? The sheikh said, are you coming with a empty heart, a heart that is ready to be filled up? Or do you have your own ideas and your own understanding and your own knowledge? Because if you do, your glass is full, you might as well just go back down. Because then I can't fill it up. He says, my glass is empty, Sheikh. And it was empty. And the Sheikh filled it up, and he became Abu Hasan al-Shadili. When he came down that mountain, the people, if you ask the people of Morocco, Algeria, and Libya, and even Egypt, if you ask them, what's your tariqah? And you say Shadili, they say, no. What is Shadili is the term for tasawwuf. You're either Darqawi or either Tijani, or something like that. They are all mashrabs from the Shadili tariqah. He's the qutub. He became the qutub after that. So sidq is important. When you come in, you have to be emptying everything. إِذَا نَظَرَ اعْتَبَرَ. So he gives a list of things that tells the shaykh, or that tells the individual, tells the shaykh that this person is really sincere, he wants. The first one, إِذَا نَظَرَ اعْتَبَرَ. When looking, he contemplates. And this is what our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, which is da'if really, but a mu'min's alamat of a mu'min, true mu'min is, if he speaks, it's dhikr. His nadar is i'tibar. Nadar meaning he's looking, is taking a lesson all the time. He's taking a lesson. He's not looking and look at the outward of things. He sees a beautiful, beautiful house. His nadar will be, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me a palace like that in the Jannah. He sees business that's really successful. He say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make my business with him successful like this. Ibra, he makes ibra from everything. وَإِذَا صَمَتَ تَفَكَّرَ. And if he's quiet, he's not just quiet because he does not want to speak. He always contemplates when he's quiet. Right? وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ ذَكَرَ. And if he speaks, his tongue when it utters is always a dhikr. So when somebody like that, when he gives advice, it's always, he contemplates before he starts speaking and saying this. He gives advice, but his advice is a dhikr to himself and to the person. Alright? If he speaks, it's either salat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or dhikrullah. Naam. Kalimat tamjid, subhanallahi walhamdulillahi wa la ilaha illallahu wallahu akbar. That is 4 slaves just released. A man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, I've got 4 slaves. Is there anything better that I can do? I want to set them free. Is there anything better I can do? He said, yes, say subhanallahi walhamdulillahi wa la ilaha illallahu wallahu akbar. That's 4 things. Subhanallahi walhamdulillahi wa la ilaha illallahu wallahu akbar. 4 things. 4 slaves just released. He could not understand. Our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Subhanallahi walhamdulillahi tamla'u al-mizan. The scale the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, Subhanallahi walhamdulillahi, it fills up the scale. And then he said, the Rawi, the narrator says, tamla'u ma bayna as-sama'i wal-ard. Samawati wal-ard. It fills up what is between the heavens and the earths. Subhanallah walhamdulillah. I like to sit in the company of the old people. I'm talking about old people that had a traditional background and a traditional upbringing. Their tongue is always filled with dhikr. And I always wonder, where does this come from? Where does this come from? Because our old people, our grandmothers and our fathers, and they were like that. They were brought up with the dhikr. This is the outing. Now we're going to go get bags and bags and bags of thawab. Come children, come. We're going off to the mehfil. We're going off to Auntie so-and-so's house. There's some zikr there. Or there's a dhikr here, and so on. It used to be like that. Some of us are still trying to keep it up. And we need to. Subhanallahi walhamdulillahi tamla'u ma bayna samawati wal ard. It fills up between the heavens. It's not just 4 slaves freeing. It fills it up. So your day can't really begin, So the old people, they were like this. The day can't begin if you've done your little wird or your business on the musalla after Fajr. Your day can't begin. It's insane. You've not purchased all of this great sawab before your day begins. Your day is completely barakaless, blessingless. Naam. Dhikr. وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ ذَكَرَ. وَإِذَا مُنِعَ صَبَرَ. And if they are prevented, they have patience. This is the murid. Like Ghawth Abu Madyan, he was prevented and he was patient. Even though he was about to faint, he stood there and said, no. My nafs is more hungry than this body. I can faint, but this nafs, no way, he's going to get nourishment here today. And when he showed his sincerity and his commitment, he got both. وَإِذَا أُعْطِيَ شَكَرَ. And if he is given, he's thankful. Shukr is a very important element in this game. Very important. Why? Because if you give shukr, you get increase. Alright? If you get shukr, if you do shukr, if you do gratitude, you get increase. لَإِن تَأَذَّنَ رَبَّكَ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you do shukr to Allah, Allah will certainly increase you. Shukr, how do we do shukr? And the definition of shukr is to use the bounties of Allah, the favors of Allah in that which pleases Allah. That is shukr. My money is favor. Give a portion of it to the faqir after I've looked after my family. Remember, your money is a blessing. Look after your family. Once you've done that, this is the greatest tawab that you can get when it comes to your wealth. And then whatever is left over, you can give it to the poor. Your hands is a blessing. Use it to work. Right? Your mouth is a blessing. Learn the Quran. Memorize the Quran. No? Your eyes is a blessing. Read and look in the Quran. Every single limb in your body, and there's 360 of them, there is a sadaqah in there, our Nabi said. Every single limb, there are 360 of them in our bodies, there's a sadaqah in there. Now, to pick up some heavy stuff and put it on the camel for a brother, to carry some groceries, our Nabi said, for somebody, that is sadaqah. There's all forms of using your limbs to in matters that pleases Allah. Use the blessings of Allah in that which pleases Allah subhanahu. That's shukr. وَإِذَا ابْتُلِيَ اسْتَرُجَعَ. And if he is in a state of bala, meaning tests, and tests are gonna come upon us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never leave a true servant without tests. And the greater the tests, dear brothers and sisters, the greater your maqam. The greater your maqam, the greater your station by Allah. The higher you think of Allah, the more higher you revere Him, the greater reverence you have, and the greater you have respect for your Lord, the greater your test. Now, so let us be prepared for that, and insha'Allah ta'ala we will complete the rest of these advice of Imam Harith al-Muhasibi next week, inshallah, when we meet. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.